spine moved, and it went up and down and up and down, and finally went up and shot out the top of my head and lit up the whole room with the divine light.
Okay, everyone, thank you for joining me. And today's guest is Chitra. Chitra, how are you?
I'm good.
Great, great.
I'm good.
Uh, Good to
Yeah.
see you. I'm glad. Thank you so much for being here and taking the time to talk to me today.
Thanks for having me.
Great, no problem. Okay, so why don't you tell me how this journey started for you? Um,
I read
you you wrote a book.
I read a book.
Oh, you read a book. Okay. What book?
Sid Author by Herman Hesse.
Okay, I've heard of that book. I've not read the book, but I have heard of that book.
Right.
So how old were you approximately, maybe when you came across this book?
Probably around 16.
Oh my. Okay. So that's actually pretty young to be reading something like that. So
I know. I had a friend who had an older brother who
okay.
who was quite cool. He's into,
Yeah.
Bob Dylan and, all the cool reading things like Dune and The Hobbit and Sid
Yeah.
Author.
Oh, awesome. Okay. So you read that book, and before that, were you religious at all? Were you Christian or
I grew up Jewish.
I grew up Jewish. Okay. So
Uh,
were you a
yeah.
practicing Jewish or a practicing Jew or just sort of like title only?
Um, I didn't practice being Jewish. I was just a teenage kid.
Okay. Yeah, I didn't
But
know if like your family, you know,
they were
even
conservative.
okay.
So,
Okay.
occasionally the topic of God would come up, and I
Hmm.
would wonder what God is. And my mother would say, "You can't know what God is."
It's true. Okay. So that all
But
right. So
I didn't believe her.
right. Yeah. Well, at 16, we don't believe our parents know anything.
That's true.
All right. So, okay. Okay. So you read this book and then tell me like what happened. Like obviously it completely
Well,
railroaded you to a new path.
well, no, not really. Just
Hmm.
I read the book, and I heard that there was such a thing called enlightenment, and I thought, oh, isn't that interesting? And then I forgot about it. I was more interested in finding a boyfriend.
Oh, okay. Okay. But it planted the seed.
Planted the seed. And then also around the same time, I one minute realized that whatever I was, not my body and not my mind, but whatever I was,
Mhm.
had been the same since when I was born.
Wow. That is actually one of the things when I first got back into this is what really pushed me is there somebody asked like there's a part of you that never changed from you being a little kid to present day. And I like thought about it and that's sort of like really helped me in my awakening understanding was just oh my god, like there is something there that like your body's completely different, your thoughts are completely different, your experiences are completely different, but there's something that hasn't changed.
Well, when that happened for me, I was 16.
Wow.
It was like a blip. It was nothing. It didn't mean
Mm-hmm.
anything to me. I
Mm-hmm.
just forgot about it. It's chasing boys again.
Right. So okay, so then so this the seed's there and it obviously didn't ever leave, but you sort of put it aside. So then what happened? Then how did you sort of come back around
Well, I got
Uh,
crazy from the time I was 16 to the time I was 19. Lots of drugs and parties and, discotheques. And I lived in New York City.
I thought I picked up on the accent there.
Yeah. It never goes away, does it?
No, it doesn't.
No, it's like I've been in California for, 50 years,
Wow.
but I still think of myself as a New Yorker.
New Yorker. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But,
If I just met you on the street, I would just say, yeah, she's from New York completely. Just the persona, the voice, everything is exactly like it's amazing. 50 years and you're still you're still a New Yorker. It's great.
yeah, and really still all my friends are from New York,
Oh,
basically.
still to this
I,
day.
I never really made any close friends here in California. So I'm still in touch with kids I went to public school with.
Oh, wow. Interesting. Okay.
But
Yeah.
then when I was like 19, I met my husband, my first husband, and he was into spirituality.
Mm.
And so the two of us, we would meditate. We read books. We read all the Tibetan books that came out, and then Be Here Now, and Autobiography of a Yogi, and
Oh,
uh,
yeah. All the classics, like basically.
the Gospel of Ramakrishna. Yeah.
Amazing. Okay. So that's actually where you really your journey began then was like with your first marriage.
Okay, when I was like 19, yeah.
Okay.
So I started doing yoga, and do you know the book Be Here Now?
I do.
Yeah.
Hmm.
So between that book and Autobiography Yogi, my goal was to find my guru. That's all I want.
Okay.
So, and eventually we ended up moving to California, and I found my guru, whose name was Baba Haridas.
Okay. Be Here Now. Is that by
Das.
Ram Dass, right? Correct. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. That's a great book. Okay. Okay. So then you found your guru, and I'm sorry, what was his name again?
Baba Haridas.
Baba Hardas. Okay. And
Right.
then
I continued doing yoga.
mhm.
And by this time I had a child.
Did you find it difficult to have a child and still sort of have this
I
sort
always
of
felt life was
change?
difficult. Life was always difficult for me.
Oh, really? Okay. Why did you feel that way?
Um, why did I feel that way?
Hmm.
I don't know. Just I fell out of love with my husband. It was difficult being a mother. Uh, we didn't have a lot of money, so there
Hmm.
was a bit of a struggle. And I really wanted to know what God was. So
Yeah. Okay. So yeah, so your first teacher then, he basically worked with you and then basically like how long did you study under him?
I was with him for 2 years.
Oh, okay.
And then I say that the winds of karma blew me away.
And why is that? What happened?
Um, well, let's rewind, okay? So I met my guru. I started looking for my guru when I was like 21, and then finally met him when I was like 26 or 27. Took me 6 years to find him. And in the meantime, I was studying the Yoga Sutras,
Hmm.
Patanjali's Yoga Sutras.
Hmm.
He was actually teaching them at the time. And one day, now I'm going to tell you my enlightenment story. One day I was sitting at the table writing an essay about how all I wanted to do was find God. And my Kundalini woke up.
Oh, wow. Okay. So how describe that to me.
It just, it just, I was writing an English paper for a college class,
Hmm.
and how all I wanted to do was find God. And at the end of the paper, I wrote something like, love, serve, remember, from Be Here Now. And all of a sudden, an energy at the bottom of my spine moved, and it went up and down and up and down, and finally went up and shot out the top of my head and lit up the whole room with a divine light.
Wow. That is so amazing.
And
So,
the way I describe it, it felt like liquid love going up
oh,
and down my body.
that is beautiful. So, uh, did it scare you? Or, I mean, at the time, what
No,
did you
I
think was
was
happening?
blissed out. It was beautiful.
Yeah, yeah.
So the what
Did you realize what was happening? Did you know that's what it was?
I didn't think about it
Okay. Yeah. You didn't label it or anything, just happened.
at the
Right.
time. It just happened. And I was so, it was exciting. I was like so overjoyed, and I went out on my balcony, and, and I said to myself, God must love me to do that. And a Cupid holding a heart went running across the sky.
Oh, wow. That's some reassurance right there.
So, but just because the Kundalini goes up and down and shoots out the top of your head doesn't mean you're finished.
Yes.
So I went and laid down, right, to just
Hmm.
calm down because I was like so excited. And the next thing I know is I'm laying down and my astral body comes out of my physical body and lands up on the ceiling.
Whoa. So you were literally like looking down on your body.
Well, I was looking down on my body, and at the same time, I was looking up at my body,
Whoa. That's
up at the astral
incredible.
level.
Oh,
Yeah.
wow. So
I
this
mean,
happened literally like right after the Kundalini experience, you
right,
lied down and this happened.
right. So, and then I got so that scared me
Yeah.
up on the ceiling like that. And so the fear made me drop back into my body,
Mm.
but I still couldn't move my body. And what happened is my eyes were closed and I went inside. At this point, there still was an inside and an outside.
Hmm.
So I went inside, and I don't remember the exact sequences, but I saw my chakras in outer space.
Well, what did they look like?
Have
Like
you ever seen?
colors?
Yes, circles,
Hmm.
little mandalas
Oh, great.
of,
Okay.
of in outer space.
Oh, wow.
So, and then after
So
that,
so your chakras, I don't mean to keep interrupting. I just have a lot of questions. You see your chakras, so were they like lined up on your body or they were just like lined up colored in front of you?
I don't know, like my awareness was like looking into outer space, and the chakras were there.
Wow. Okay. I follow.
So, and then after that, I ended up being just awareness, looking at nothing. There was absolutely nothing there to look at. It was like a black blank, I call it. And to me, that was nirvana.
Hmm. Okay. So and this all happened within
And I also actually saw the thousand petal lotus.
oh my God, really?
Mhm.
Wow. Okay. So this is all happening like in concurrent
And the time that
sequences.
Kundalini shut up the top of my head
Hmm.
till I realized the Supreme Being probably was less than an hour.
Wow. That is a heavy succession of events.
Right.
Unbelievable.
Yeah, at the same time, in between, I don't remember the sequence, but somewhere in there, I went through my subconscious mind and reviewed my life. You know how, like, when they say you die, you know,
Mm-hmm.
your life flashes before you.
Mm-hmm.
That happened. And then I saw some dead relatives. They invited me to come over to the other side. I said, no, thank you. And and then I saw my guru, like
He appeared to you.
um yeah, in like my mind's eye. And
Uh-huh.
then and then everything disappeared and the supreme being that we all are was there.
So they're in front of you, or you felt
No,
like
it
that
was me.
it was you.
Yes,
Okay, that's
it
what
was
I okay. So that simultaneously, boy, I know it's so hard to describe, but I know what you mean. Um, yeah, it's like is this we had talked briefly before. So is that what you would describe as like the faceless face?
the original face.
The original face. Yes. That's when you really felt it right then, right?
Hmm?
Is that when you originally felt that initially that the faceless face, like right the original face is
It's
in that
not a
moment?
feeling. It's not a feeling. It's
A
just
knowing?
sort of.
Hmm. Yeah, I know.
Yeah,
It's
you
really
know,
hard to use language with any of
when
this.
when when that happened, I call that nirvikalpa samadhi.
Okay.
So
I'm
the world vanishes. You know, all three planes vanish: the physical, the astral, and the causal. It all vanishes, and there you are. And you know, it wasn't until a year or two ago that I was reading about Zen Buddhism and came across the fact that Zen Buddhists are supposed to realize the original face. And I thought, oh, yeah, that's what it was, the original face. So it's like I never thought about it for 40 years that that was the original face,
wow.
but that's what it is. You know, and in the Bible, I went to do research about the original face.
Hmm.
And in the Bible, in the Old Testament, you know, people were seeing the face of God, right? Moses said something like, you have to, if you see the face of God, you will die,
Yes.
right? So,
Hmm.
yeah. So to me, it's also the face of God. But my guru called it supreme energy.
Mm. Now, did
Yeah.
he know this happened to you?
I never told him.
Oh my goodness. Wow, I can't believe you didn't share that with him.
I assumed he knew.
Well, he probably did, actually.
I just assumed it. I have no idea.
Right. That's amazing. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's interesting to me, and I think this is important, is it is so much like dying. Like when you have those experiences, I mean, what you described, it sounds very similar to, I don't know if you've ever heard of, like, those near death experiences, but it sounds almost identical. Like they sort of like they're in a black void. They feel nothing but love. They get the life review. It's really amazing that you went through that, consciously, without ever experiencing like any kind of, physical trauma or anything.
Well, I was doing yoga. And
Mm.
so when you do yoga, that's what's supposed to happen.
Oh, interesting. Okay. I know, I think a lot of people are, in the West, they just think yoga is just the thing you do with your body and everything, and that's it. That's like all they think yoga is, but it's actually a teaching.
Right. I never did asanas and I never did pranayamas. I meditated and I did japa.
Okay, what's japa?
You know, like you pick a word that you love, like God, or I use the word Ram. Did you ever hear the word Ram?
In meditation practices, yes.
Right.
It's,
So I would keep the word Ram going all day long.
oh, even when you were like walking
I was
around and
walking around, washing dishes, talking to somebody.
okay.
I
And
was,
then when you were doing that, when you were keeping that going, what did you start to notice things like a shift or a change when you were repeating that?
no,
Okay.
nothing. When I was like, when I was like 20, when I was like 19,
Hmm.
I was having a really hard time and I had cried myself to sleep. Probably some guy broke up with me or something. And anyway, um, I, I was woken up in the middle of the night and there was a light being standing at the foot of my bed. Just a being made of light. I mean, he was colorless.
Wow.
He was kind of, he was, yeah, he was made of white light. And I got so scared that I blew him away because I thought he was a robber.
Right.
It was
Some,
so that was like the only metaphysical, mystical experience I had until my Kundalini woke up. So nothing ever changed. So when I was telling you when I was 16 and realized that I was this unchangeable energy,
hmm.
to me, that's self-realization.
Okay, so would that be I know it's
That's like the
sometimes
point.
words get sticky, but that would sort of be like an awakening kind of.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. So, but it took me like when I say 16, it took me
Yeah.
like 12 years before the final awakening happened.
Right. Right. Yeah. Oh,
So,
wow. I just I can't even imagine having an hour like you had. I can't even, how do you go back to normal life after that? I mean, did you
well, I
sort of
didn't.
like,
I didn't.
what
I
did
was
you do?
I was a nutcase for 2 years because
Okay.
the self, right? Let's call it the self, the supreme energy I am, didn't it seems like it didn't want me to come back in the world. It's like the supreme self that we are
Hmm.
is like a magnet and it's always calling you back there.
Interesting. Yeah, I can relate to
So
that.
I was dysfunctional. I was dysfunctional for 2 years. I was completely hung up on my guru. I was madly in love with my guru, and my then husband divorced me and stole my child from me.
Mm,
And yeah,
sorry to hear that.
and then I met my second husband, and we had 4 children together.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And life became normal. And for a long time, I forgot that I was enlightened. I just ignored it.
Okay. So you kind of went back into family mode, wife, mother, and everything, and then sort of set that experience aside. Which I guess I mean it makes sense because like it or not regardless of what you say we are what we're going through, we still are sort of here going through this experience, and you still have to eat and survive.
But in the past couple of years, though, I've been understanding, I've been understanding things more. Like, for example, the supreme self that I realize
Hmm.
isn't aware of anything.
Wow. Okay, you have to go deeper into that. What do you mean by that, and why do you think that's the case?
Well, I read about it,
Okay.
All right, like Ramana Maharshi
Hmm.
explains um, explains what this term ajata is. Did you ever go look it up?
I did. And that seems to be the gist of it, is that they're like it's dreaming and it doesn't realize it. Is that sort of the gist? Like it's almost like we are its dream, but it doesn't even realize that it's dreaming, right? Is that sort of
It's not dreaming.
it's not dreaming.
It doesn't do anything.
Okay.
It's
Explain it
not,
to me.
not aware of the world when the world is happening.
Is it aware of anything? Is it aware of itself?
Yes. I,
Okay.
I could say it's aware of itself.
Okay.
But it's also I mean it's not really I don't it's omniscient.
S- So
It knows everything.
right. But how, so like okay, so that's why I'm a little confused. So if it knows everything, how is it not aware of this creation?
It's just not. It's just
Okay. So
not.
do you know, and is that the way like
I mean, it never occurred to me. It never occurred to me that that's what was happening.
it didn't I've never heard of it actually. I
Right.
always thought that it was aware of itself and sort
It's
of expressing
awareness.
itself.
It is awareness. All right.
Uh,
So when you're in a physical body
mhm.
and you're being aware of something, that awareness is just reflected awareness. It's not real awareness.
Okay. I actually follow that. Okay, so the real awareness just is what then?
Just an energy.
Just an
And
energy.
it's not just awareness.
Okay.
It's self-effulgent light.
What is it? Could you repeat that? It's self what?
Self-effulgent light.
Meaning that it's sort of like back on itself.
It's just lit up.
It's just lit up. Okay. Yeah, because I read or saw something somewhere recently where it just sort of talks about how we're in this holographic light-based reality. I don't know. Something there seems similar almost just because of the maybe the light factor in both of them. I don't know. Um, but
The
so
word
so
the word reality is a weird word.
yeah, yeah, that is for sure.
Some people think that that life is reality.
Right. Yeah, a
Other
lot of
people
people.
a lot of people think life is an illusion.
Right. I hear that all the time in these circles.
So, it doesn't really matter whether you think life is real. It doesn't really matter whether, being on a plane in a state is real or not real. You know, the goal of spiritual practice is to realize that original face. The goal of spiritual practice is to realize the supreme being that you are.
Correct. Yes, I agree with you. I gotta say the original phase, I know I've heard it before, but I've never really delved into exactly what it was. So
But
um
if you had realized, if you're completely enlightened, you
mhm,
should be you should just be saying, "Oh yeah, I get that."
right. Yeah, I mean for me it's not it hasn't been like my initial shift, my initial awakening was very profound. But I have found myself it
But
almost
that's
seems like more of a gradual slope for me. Like I notice I'm less and less and less and less associating with thoughts and just sort of realizing like I can literally feel like there's nothing here. As weird as that sounds. And that feeling continues to grow. It's getting more and more like it used to be just like a fleeting feeling or understanding or what, whatever you want to call it. And then as I continue down this path, it seems like it went from really fleeting to sticking around a little bit longer and being more and more and more present, I guess. It's so hard to use words for any of this stuff, um but yeah, that's what I've found anyway. Like I and that's why I don't know, like don't in a way, don't you think everybody sort of has their own path and their own journey to experience things the way that maybe they were meant to, or is it just randomness? I don't know. What are your thoughts?
I, I, I didn't follow that really.
Oh, okay. Well, yeah, I mean, that's just
Nothing is random.
okay. That's interesting. I don't believe anything's random either. Um, so what makes you feel that way?
I read it in the book and it resonated.
Okay. Yeah, no, I mean, there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, that's that through most of this journey, it's for me, and it sounds like a lot for you, and I'm sure it's the same way for a lot of people, is yeah, you can sort of like it does, like you can almost feel resignation. Like that's why we had talked about, Angelo. And for me, like when he talks, it's like dead on. Like, I mean, for me, I mean, I can tell like he knows what he's talking about, and the experience resonates with me. And his words, even though initially they may not make any sense to me, uh when I go back and listen or dwell on it or anything, all of a sudden things start clicking, and it's like then all of a sudden there's this understanding.
Yeah,
So
yeah. I don't listen to Angela.
right, yeah, that's okay. I mean, that's what I mean. I mean, it's like I think the thing for me is I'm just amazed at the diversity of just life. I mean, it's like even though there's technically, it's all one thing. It the just how two people, you put two people in a room and have the identical situation happen to both of them, and both people will see it completely differently. And it's kind of it's almost mind-boggling how incredible that can be sometimes for me anyway. That's why I like doing this. It's just I'm just kind of fascinated by people's experiences and just how diverse everybody is, you know.
The thing about the Supreme Self that I talk about, the
Mm-hmm.
original self, is this
Mm-hmm.
omnipresent,
Yes.
right?
Yeah.
So you should, I don't think you should be feeling nothing.
Well, it's not
Omnipresent,
nothing in this, like it's just not it's so hard to explain. Like it's not nothing per se. It's everything is sort of, but there's no substance, I guess maybe is maybe a better explanation. Like there's an energy there, but it's nothing like what we think is like reality. That I think that's what I mean.
you know what the witness consciousness is?
I think so. It's basically when you just sort of realize like that
Is this unchanging thing,
yes, and it's not judgmental. It doesn't have thoughts. It's just aware. Is that what you mean?
right?
Yes.
So whatever that is a reflection of the real thing, but it's not nothing.
Um,
So you want to take that witness consciousness,
uh-huh.
you want to meditate on that till the point where it disappears.
Interesting. Okay. I could try that.
And
I'm
when
down
it
with that.
disappears, you're at the source. Some people call it the source,
Sure.
right?
Yeah, I
So,
actually prefer the word source because God has been so tainted. It's like the old man with the beard instantly
right,
appears when you
yeah,
say God. Right.
I know. I don't know. I don't know what word to use. I can use lots of words. I can use
Mm-hmm.
real I,
Mm-hmm.
the real I. I can use supreme self. I can use supreme energy. I can use Atman is Brahman and the face of God. There's lots of words, but it's not nothing.
Okay, so yeah, I mean, I'm doing my best to try and describe it to you, but I can't seem to put my finger on it. But I get what you mean. So that's it's is it more like an innate feeling, innate knowing
The
that
world,
feeling?
the world will disappear when you realize what you are.
Okay. So
So,
for you, you're like day to day,
well,
you're
I'm
you
just
what
normal again.
I'm sorry, could you repeat that?
I'm just normal
Oh, you're
again.
normal again. Okay. So 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 what do you mean by you're normal again? You just sort of put that to the side for now or what?
Well, from my point of view,
Hmm.
okay, let's just call it supreme energy. Okay,
Okay.
we're calling the original face supreme energy now.
Okay.
It's like a treasure chest of infinite knowledge, infinite power, and infinite bliss. So, um, the the I am that we are,
Yes.
that's just a temporary thing, right? It's an illusion.
Correct.
Anyway, um, when that meditates on the supreme being that we are,
Okay.
that's a possibility. It's collecting infinite knowledge, power, and bliss. You know
Okay,
how they
so
describe this? You know how they describe the screen? You
the
know, the screen analogy?
oh like yeah, you mean like a movie screen, that
Right,
analogy?
right, right.
It's the
Well,
projection. Yeah, we're the blank screen, and life is sort of like the
right, but
projection
that
on it.
screen is not nothing. That screen is like a combination of knowledge, power, and bliss.
Incredible. Okay. And you can and that's
That's
what
what,
you are picking up basically. That reality.
yes.
Wow. So how do you so you only experience it in that moment, or do you only experience when you experience that when you meditate, or do you feel that
Um,
all the time now?
Now let's call that one thing that I described. When the world vanished and the supreme being, original face, popped up.
Mhm.
Let's call that was Nirvikalpa Samadhi.
Okay, I've heard that term.
Um, Ramana Maharshi called it Ajata.
Yes.
I have described it in English as beyond the beyond.
Okay.
We are always that. That's what we always are. Our real I, that's what we always are.
Yeah, agreed. Agreed. It's just getting a deeper. So meditation, would you say meditation is almost just like uh a way to sort of grow closer and closer to experiencing that?
Yes. Meditation is like taking a bath.
Interesting. Explain that analogy to me.
Well, I don't, um, when I was doing spiritual practices, my goal was to purify the mind. In yoga, we stop the thought waves in the mind.
Hmm.
The mind vanishes. No mind.
No mind. Right.
But you have to purify it to get it to do that. So when I was doing spiritual practices, I didn't just purify my mind, I purified my body. I was careful what I put into my body.
Hmm.
I was careful what I said. I was always honest. Have you heard of the yamas and the niyamas?
I have not. No, that's completely new to me. What are they?
There are things to do and things not to do,
Okay.
kind of like rules.
Okay, and this is a teaching?
Yeah, it's yoga.
Oh, okay. What are they called again? I actually wouldn't mind looking into
The,
that more.
the yamas and the niyamas.
Okay. Okay, so they are sort of a list of do's and don'ts, basically.
Right. So,
Okay.
and it's part of how to purify the mind. So, japa.
And you did this by just basically meditation. Now, were you meditating on one thing specifically, or you were sort of meditating on the face of
I was
God, or
I was careful not to think.
not to think at all?
Right. To
Yeah,
stop the thought waves in the mind. So if I started thinking about something, I would start doing japa.
interesting. Okay, that makes sense. Yeah, yeah. I mean that's another.
I went through a period of time where I would stare at a dot on the wall. That
Yes.
you can get God realized by staring at a dot on a wall.
Well, yeah, and the thing is, if you stare at
Oh,
something
oh,
long, more than 5 minutes, it starts to disintegrate, which is insane.
it's concentration. You have to develop concentration. You have to be really concentrated to get God realized. I mean, I tell people, I might have realized, the unchanging awareness when I was 16, but
Hmm.
it took me 12 years to get my Kundalini to go up and down and take me deeper.
Yeah.
So it was just a purification practice. You purify everything about yourself, not about your person
Hmm.
and your environment, just purification. Anyway, my main thing, I mean, I go on Facebook and, I talk about how in order to realize, what supreme enlightenment is, the world has to vanish.
Right.
It has to vanish. A lot of people argue with me and think I'm crazy.
Well, I
But
don't think so because isn't that sort of the same thing that happens when you go into deep sleep? Like your mind
yeah, but the
basically
self
does
isn't the self isn't realized in deep sleep.
no, no, you're correct. Right. But no, well, I don't know if it's any consolation. Maybe I'm crazy too, but I don't think you're crazy. I completely understand what you're saying. Although I do see how people might have a problem with that in a way. Um, but I think it's just because of the starkness of that reality as opposed to the quote unquote reality of apparent physical matter. I mean, you sort
Anyway,
of.
I don't teach. I'm not a teacher.
Mhm.
I have no idea about psychology, for example.
Mhm.
I'm just and chatting about enlightenment is like a hobby.
Sure. Yeah, it's very interesting, and it's nice to share with people that have had.
I mean, I
Um,
don't think I have Shakti pot. I can't transfer anything to anybody. Some people have Shakti pot, but
do you think your
I'm
teacher did?
huh?
Do you think your teacher did?
Sometimes I think that he meditated on me. He meditated on me and got me to the point where I could realize the self.
Yeah, that's interesting. I mean, if he was a teacher, he probably did.
I think that real, not he wasn't just a teacher, he was a guru.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that he had a power that could enlighten other beings.
That's amazing.
He knew how to do it. So,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he was a yogi since he was 8 years old. He left home and lived in the jungles.
Wow.
So he was a master yogi.
Incredible. You were
Yeah,
lucky to find him. I'm assuming he's passed on, I guess.
yeah, he passed on.
That's unfortunate. Hmm. That's amazing. Well, I mean, yeah, there's so much to unwrap. It's just difficult. I'm like you, like I'm not obviously I'm not a teacher. I have no, right now I don't have a desire to do that either. Because I just feel like I just have just nipped the tip of the iceberg on this the entire thing. But I do love the idea of it's interesting that you say the reflection because I hear that a lot too. Like that's actually like another new like buzz thing is just, we are nothing but a reflection. And I don't know, how do you see that? Like how do you experience that? You personally.
It's not really an experience. It's you just know. I I read it in a book.
Mhm.
All right. I mean, it didn't come down, it didn't download out of nowhere. I read it in a book and just said, "Oh yeah, I get that."
Yeah. Do you think maybe though, in the way that's sort of what happened with your Kundalini experience almost, where you just sort of like it wasn't reflecting anymore. It was like a direct connection or a direct knowing of that experience. Like it wasn't that
I would say
reflection.
that energy
Hmm.
was a reflection of the supreme energy that we are. It's hard to explain. I
I
mean,
know.
you don't have to call it a reflection. You can call it a manifestation,
Right.
or you can uh what's another word? Uh part of the dream, part of a dream. Uh
Hmm.
yeah, it was I don't know. My guru explains what Kundalini is, but I don't remember. He says something like the energy that's sleeping at the base of your spine is left over from your creation.
Wow. That's beautiful. I can kind
Yeah.
of see that. And that is usually like every Kundalini experience or awakening type experience I've read about or heard about. It does seem like it's always there. That's where it starts, the base of the spine. And I've heard it's, described many times exactly like you described it, sort of like this, this burst of um of energy from the base of the spine. It's pretty amazing.
So all
Uh,
your chakras have to be open
oh, interesting. Okay.
for the energy to go up.
Straight up. Yeah, there can't be a blockage.
So, so there are a lot of people that have problems from Kundalini energy,
Oh
and
yeah, like what?
I don't know, they get blocked. They hit
Hmm.
something and then they get traumatized, for
Yeah,
example.
yeah, I could see that.
No,
I could.
I don't know anybody else that's ever had a Kundalini experience like I did.
Yes, I have not talked to anybody else actually that has had
No,
like I've seen YouTube videos of people that describe it or read things about people's experiences, but I don't know anyone personally. In fact, I didn't know anyone that even had an awakening experience forever. Quite a few years. I was just like in this no man's land And I tried telling a couple people and they were just like looking at me like I was nuts. So so I quit telling everyone. So yeah, did you try and tell anybody what happened? I know you didn't tell your teacher, but did you actually like try and share that experience with anybody in your life?
Well, I shared it with my then husband, who thought I was crazy.
Hmm.
So,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah,
And
unfortunately.
so I tell the story occasionally, uh, but you know, people either see it as bragging, I'm bragging about something, or
Mhm.
or I'm
Yeah.
delusional or something. But
Right.
you know, I think I'm not gonna say, I think it's my mission, but it's not really a mission. I don't know how to describe it, but
Your purpose, maybe?
whatever I'm doing for a reason. And
Hmm.
it seems like all I want to do is point out that getting enlightened, supremely enlightened, is a very rare experience.
Hmm.
There are very few enlightened beings on the planet. Um, I follow Mayor Baba. I don't know if you ever heard of Mayor Baba.
I don't think so.
Right. He
But
says there are only 56 enlightened beings on the planet at a time.
yeah, I just heard this the other day. Somebody was talking about something, and I heard somebody say there's always at least 36 is what I've heard, and then
No,
there could
56.
be more. Well, oh, I know. You said 56. I'm just saying
Oh,
somebody else. I just heard somebody else say something similar, but they gave the number 36.
so
So, but or,
half the people on the internet are not enlightened.
mhm,
And I think that it's it's my mission to point out that they're not enlightened.
mhm. Yeah, that's understandable. I get that. I mean, well,
You know,
and again, I think there's a lot more people that say they are awakened, and then they're not even awakened, let alone enlightened.
yeah. Well, I think that there are a lot of people who have realized that they have this energy that never changes.
Hmm.
I think there are a lot of people that know that, but they don't know what to do with it, so they just ignore it.
Yes. Yeah. And the key, I think, is what you're kind of stressing too, is how to sort of explore that. I've never heard, as long as I've been, reading and everything else, I've never heard of anyone saying to meditate on that. And I think that's actually pretty brilliant. But
But you have to
yeah,
know that to meditate on it.
well, right, that's part of the problem. A lot of people don't even know what that is.
Right. So,
Yeah. Yeah, that's really interesting. Okay. Um, I do you have I don't know, do you have anything else that you'd like to share? Like what would you say to people? Um, do you have any messages out there to put out
you know,
there?
I started out saying, um, beyond the body mind complex, beyond the waking, dreaming, and deep sleep states, beyond the physical, astral, and causal planes, is the supreme being that you are.
Right. Yeah.
So, and if you want to know, and from my point of view, if you're a teacher, can't talk about what they realize as being supreme energy or the original face or the real I, the supreme being, did I say that?
Hmm.
Then they don't know it.
Right.
So
Yeah.
there are like two questions I would ask people who think they're awake. Did the world vanish when you realize the self?
Hmm.
And did you realize the original face?
Right. And you're talking for enlightenment.
Yes.
Right.
So, I couldn't advise you. I couldn't really advise you how to get rid of the trauma that you have, for example.
Hmm.
I couldn't tell you how to manifest money.
Yeah, a lot of people like to try to do that.
I can point you to the yamas and the niyamas,
Uh-huh.
and I can tell you to meditate, purify everything that can be purified,
Hmm.
do zazen, you know, uh, but that's as far as I go.
I gotcha. Okay. So what do you think then? What do you think God is? Like, what's your definition?
The supreme being,
Just the supreme being. Okay.
right? And I don't think God is the table or the chair.
Right.
I think God is just a supreme energy that people describe as awareness, consciousness, self-effulgent light, and peace.
Right. That's beautiful. I agree.
It's just an energy, but you can only realize it when there is no world, no universe, no creation.
So do you ever bring yourself back to that point again?
No,
No.
no.
Okay.
You're so what you're asking me is, do I ever go back into Nirvikalpa Samadhi?
Correct.
No, I don't.
Okay. Uh you just choose not to, or
It's hard.
it's hard. Hey, yeah, I'm sure it is.
I mean,
Right. I just was curious.
yeah, no. I mean, have you heard of Ramakrishna? Do you know who Ramakrishna is?
Yeah, I did. Hmm.
I mean, um, he was able to go into Nirvikalpa Samadhi, when he
Like,
heard the word God.
that's amazing. I didn't know that about him. Hmm.
Uh, but no, I mean, I've got 12 family members. So, I've got 5 adult children and 7 grandchildren. So I'm always immersed in their lives.
Hmm. Sure.
So, I've got uh I'm always just immersed in their lives, and I don't sit around trying to go back into Nirvikalpa Samadhi.
I
I'm in
gotcha. Right. I completely understand. Yeah, I mean, and geez, I mean, what's
but
better
I have
than being involved with your grandkids, right?
but yeah, I have I have a dual consciousness.
Oh, okay.
So, I mean, I can be aware of the world and my kids and activities, but I can also look back into that.
Right.
So,
Well, I can't imagine it's something
I mean,
easily forgotten.
I don't make the world disappear.
Hmm.
To get back to that place where the Supreme Self eternally resides. But sitting here, I can see it right now.
Yes. Yep. I think that yeah, when I mean I that's something I think once you experience it, you never
You don't
really
lose
let
it.
it, yes, you never lose it. Right.
I mean, it's always there. You can forget about it,
Hmm.
but I mean, if I forgot about it, it was just like painting. I was really into my painting,
Hmm.
for example, just totally trying to figure out what my next stroke is going to be, and somebody said the word God. I could immediately go back and see that, do
That's
that.
pretty amazing.
So it doesn't ever disappear.
I gotcha.
So,
Oop. I completely understand that for
you know,
sure.
there are very few interviewers. There are very few uh, YouTube interviewees that are asking the right questions.
Yeah, I kind of I definitely agree with that. I mean, I
Yeah.
hope
I mean,
well what would you ask?
when you realize the self, did the world vanish?
Mm,
And when the world vanished and you realize the self, can you call it the original face?
okay. Yeah. Well, they probably just I mean my guess is you can't ask those questions if you're not even aware of it. So yeah, so I mean what you then goes back to your point about, the enlightenment issue as far as, having a very limited number of people. So that's understandable.
Did you ever listen to the back gap interviews?
Oh yeah. Mm-hmm.
Did
Yes,
you?
I've listened to a lot of them.
And so, uh,
I think he's got like almost 1,000 people at this point he's
well,
interviewed.
a
So
little bit less than 800 probably.
yeah, there's a lot.
Yeah. But his most recent interview, um, I asked him to ask a question. You
And
know,
that
I
question
that
was,
question was to the I don't know what his name was, some
mhm.
yogi in orange. I forget his name. Nish. Anyways, I asked him, when you realize the self, did the world disappear?
What was his answer?
First, he thought it was an interesting question. I mean, why is that an interesting question? That's what enlightenment is.
Right.
And then he went on and said, yes,
Oh,
yes.
okay.
But I didn't really get that that's his experience. I got that that was Ramakrishna's experience.
Mm, okay.
You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, totally.
So,
Absolutely.
yes, he when Rick asked that question, he should have said yes and stopped. But then he went on to this whole discourse on, well, yes, the world vanishes, and then the mental world vanishes, where all the gods and goddesses reside.
Mm, that's pretty interesting.
Well,
Okay.
not really if you it's the mental plane.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Yeah, I guess it would still be mental.
but when I said when the world vanishes, to me, the world includes the physical, the astral, and the causal,
Yes.
not just not
N
just
not just the physical. Right. Yeah. And I'm sure a lot of people get that confused as well. Or the physical may disappear, but they don't realize that the astral is still there, and um then the other planes. So that makes sense. It
that
just never seems to be an end to it. It's just unbelievable what you can learn
but
and learn from
getting
other
enlightened
people.
is final. Some people say it's not final.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I don't think there's anywhere else
I'm not
really to
saying
go
that
after
life,
that point.
yeah, I'm not saying that life ends
Yes.
and that you can't learn how to play a musical instrument,
Hmm.
but
But I think the searching ends.
your spiritual journey is over.
Correct. Hi. If you like today's video, remember to subscribe and like, and I'll see you next time. Thank you so much for watching.